makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. Today I had the pleasure of speaking with Sarah Wills Carlsson, an experienced professional who has traveled throughout Canada, United States, and United Kingdom since her childhood. She studied electrical engineering at Northwestern University and completed her master's in management science and engineering at Stanford University. Sarah has worked as a project engineer at General Motors Electronics Division, now active, and has worked on many countries such as Sweden, Mexico, Portugal, and Germany. In 2015, she left to start her own company to focus on improving human interactions in global organizations. Good morning, Sarah, and welcome. We are excited to have you here with us today and to share your insight and experiences in cultures, languages, and engineering. Your background in career has been truly diverse, and we look forward to hearing more about your journey. But can you tell us more about your background and how your interest in cultures and languages developed?
Well, I was born in a pretty small town in Indiana in the middle of a cornfield, which you wouldn't think's the best birthplace for having an interest in culture and language. But it was a combination of my dad worked at General Motors and brought home Vietnamese, Taiwanese colleagues from different countries that I got to meet them, try their food, learn a few words. Very early, I was fascinated in language. When we'd travel in the hotel and they have that Gideon Bible in the hotel, I would pick it up and start reading the verse that's in like 40, 50 different languages in there. And I'd say, Mom, listen, I'm speaking Danish, or whatever language it was. I loved trying to understand that things were said in different ways. And so my parents put me in classes. I think it was already in elementary school where I started taking like a little Spanish or a little German, just to expose myself to it.
And that's pretty much it. You decided later on you're just going to continue that path itself, or did you kind of like go a different route before you get there?
Well, I had all kinds of dreams as a child. There was a period I wanted to be a veterinarian. Then I loved to argue. So I thought about being a lawyer, and I love photography. So I thought about being a photojournalist. But as I was approaching the end of high school, I started trying to find what's a career that gives me a lot of options. What's something that doesn't necessarily, say if you study to be a dentist, it's kind of hard to go into other fields from being a dentist. But through some mentoring programs my dad introduced me to, I started looking at engineering and seeing, oh, wow, that's a way to see the world. And you get to work in projects with different people. And so it was a deal with my dad to be able to go to Northwestern University, a private university out of state rather than our state colleges, that I would try engineering for 1 year if I went to Northwestern. And from that point, I could study anything I wished if I didn't like it.
Wow.
But it hooked me. And classes like the basic electrical engineering logic, I found fascinating to understand the world. And at Northwestern, I not only could, but I could combine languages. So I took French in Northwestern. I had been lucky enough to do a study abroad a summer in high school that helped me test out of quite a bit. And so I started taking French at Northwestern. I took economics. I took sociology. I took Spanish and German even, in combination with my engineering degree.
And you loved it. You just fell in love.
Yeah, and it's kind of a weird combination because a lot of people that want to study engineering, like there's not so much an interest in language. Yeah. But I'd always had a background in writing and English and then the foreign languages that fascinated me as well. And so I never saw myself kind of sticking solely to the engineering, but the whole big picture of how does it come together.
And then you know what? You did a lot with it, like you wanted to do. Like, for example, I know that you work at General Motors Electronics Division. Now I believe they call it Adaptive, I believe. And
yes.
So, but how did that lead to your fellowship in Stanford University? Because I know you make a switch there.
Yeah. Well, I started co-op student at Delphi Aptiv. It was all part of General Motors at one point. But I started co-oping there just to get some work experience while I was studying my degree. And then I hired on full-time there. And as I started working, I first had a Japanese radio program that I enjoyed, but then I was assigned to a project we were doing with BMW as an advanced engineering. And thankfully, a lot of the engineers I worked with didn't want to travel. They didn't want to go. Whereas to go to Munich, I'm like, I'm there. I'll go. And so I hopped on the plane and I helped be a very key person in the project because I was willing to travel, because I liked being overseas. I liked talking with people of different countries and cultures. It helped give me quite a bit of visibility that then helped me apply for that company fellowship, because I was seen as somebody that, not only could work engineering problems, but could also help communicate, help bridge the projects work with a customer effectively. So then that put me in a good place that I could apply for the fellowship, which was a fantastic program. They paid my tuition, gave me half a salary, and sent me to Stanford, where I studied engineering management. And it was an excellent program. I'd had several friends that had started or already completed MBAs at the time I applied. And they said, well, Sarah, the thing with an MBA is the first year is kind of a lot of teaching math and accounting and things to people who don't get math. And they said the really good stuff is in your second year. And so when I started looking at programs, I looked at programs that were focused a bit more of management for engineers. How do you get the skills in strategy, marketing, finance operations, rather than focusing on maybe teaching math to somebody who's already had an awful lot of it?
Actually, if you say math to me, I'll be running out of the womb so fast because I'm not good with math. Don't talk to me about math.
I might argue you haven't had the right teacher and the right steps, but
probably yes. Probably. So now, can you talk about your experience at Stanford and the research you conducted there?
Yeah. When I was at Stanford, I joined a class called Global Project Coordination. And I didn't know it would be life-changing, as that class was taught together with universities in Sweden, which took me to Sweden. As part of it, I met two professors. The professors who taught the class, Tom Kosnick of Stanford, and Lena Ramfelt, who was at Handels and KTH in Sweden. I really enjoyed working and talking with them. So I continued beyond the global project that we worked on into doing research. One example was that we looked at a smaller college in the United States on what was their purpose, their mission, what should their direction be. We interviewed a lot of the professors, the staff, the alumni, and made recommendations on what their focus should be.
Wow, that's exciting. So
it was a lot of fun.
Did you also get to travel to meet them in person?
Yeah.
Or it was just, wow,
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Tom and Lena, I think, were professors that really helped set a lot of my future life. Like, Tom was one of those people that believed anyone could do anything. And in his presence, you really felt it. But Lena was while she was supportive, she was more grounded and had a good analytical ability and thought process. And the combination of those two, that thought that you can do anything, but then that you need good analysis and a thought process with it, it's the tool that's helped me the rest of my life.
It's like it's created a perfect balance between the two.
Exactly. And, in the Asian philosophy, the yin and the yang, the difference between the two of them, that, one just, anything's possible, we can do it. And then, well, do we want to do it? Does it make sense? Is this the right direction? And, have you looked at all the right analysis? Lena's later continued to write a book with Tom on starting your own company. What are the questions you ask? What are the processes you go through in doing that?
So now, I'm glad you talk about companies, because all of this experience, and especially with these two professors that you work with, it's kind of like they help you learn balancing very well. Do you take that experience into your business now?
Yeah, I do. And there's balance in everything. It's balance in, life balance. It's balance in, what are you going to focus on? What are you going to prioritize? There's, I'd say, balance in all aspects of things. I've struggled with it a lot over the years. Like early in my career, my work was everything. I worked 100-hour weeks at times because work was really everything. Now I have a daughter, a husband. I'm writing a book. I'm, teaching classes. I'm doing all kinds of things. So balance both in the sense of being able to trade things off, but also trade that real inspiration and passion with grounded thought and, analysis. So I kind of check myself a lot in my business when I get excited about something, when I want to work with something. Then I get into Excel and start crunching numbers or looking at the process.
I think you like all the things I don't like. When people talk about Excel, I'm like, oh, come on, that's numbers.
It's also a handy way to structure your thoughts, I would say.
Yes, it is actually. And I get to actually put some time in learning Excel, and after a few years, I'm like, wow, this is very helpful. Now when I'm talking to my staff, and I'll be like, create an Excel sheet for this. You'll be good with it.
Yeah, it's like I was probably the best at it when it was 19 years old in a co-op assignment. And I really learned Excel at that point. I could make it fly. And now, in the years when I was an engineering director, we did a lot of budgets in Excel. And I had no clue how those files even worked. Like, you need a good controller because they love that. They love making it work, all the pivot tables and all the different ways of doing things. I'm clueless now in modern Excel, but I still structure my thoughts there.
So now can you tell us about Nspir AB and the services it offers?
Yeah. What it was back in 2015, I decided I'd been at Aptiv for, it was 22 years at that point. And I wanted to do something different. I guess it was some of that entrepreneurial spirit that came from Stanford and Tom and Lena that I wanted to start out and do something. And I picked the name a lot because I want to inspire people. I've worked very hard on my mission statement over the years on really wanting to make the world slightly better because I exist. And then there's a whole lot of details about how to do it. But a lot of that comes down to inspiration. When I've led people, when I've spoken for groups, things that I've done, I think the compliment that I have that I like the most is, you inspired me to do something, or I did this because, something you said or something you did. The other day in a group meeting I was in, a woman said, Sarah, you're the spark plug. And that's a lot what I like to be, is somebody that inspires, that puts a light there and gets things going. So that was what I set out to do. And I've changed direction quite a few times in it. My initial thought was to run a consulting company that would take younger people that may not have gotten a placement. Let's be frank, different countries, different cultures, different races sometimes have trouble getting jobs in companies. They come in, whether it's their name or, something, they go through 20, 30, 40 interviews. That was something I learned when I spoke for a group in Sweden. It was a group of kids that were all foreign born, but trained and educated in Sweden. And they were struggling to get in the job market there. They sent out 50, 60 resumes. They wouldn't get called at all.
Wow.
And I really wanted to work something with that because I thought, here's all this knowledge, all this potential, this fire. At the time when I was an engineering director at Delphi, I actually hired a lot of those kids I spoke to. And when I left, I wanted to start a consulting company to do that. Then I realized I'm not very good at sales. Sales is kind of one of my weak points. What I'm really good at is being within a company and identifying talent. So I went to work. I was actually already working as a consultant, but I stepped up and I started taking recruiting roles. I started help building an organization for that company. So over the course of more than 4 years, I worked for a company to help build a software organization, different teams of people. And in those cases, I could recruit. I could identify that potential within somebody and bring them in. I also, while I was consulting, I'd had a dream of teaching. I really wanted to teach people. And the company I was working for, we were working between Sweden and China. And as you can guess, there were quite a few challenges that we had coming up in it. And all this culture stuff had been something I'd been fascinated with for a very long time. So I went back to the course material I had at Stanford. I also read some more recent books. And I put together a training course in my own time that I just experimented with a few of the teams, my own team and a couple of my peers' teams around me. And it really helped because basically a lot of the people were getting really frustrated with things they didn't understand. They would interpret somebody's behavior. Let's say somebody they were working with in China, a behavior they would interpret as if they were in Sweden. So somebody shows up late to a meeting or somebody, doesn't answer them because they don't know them very well. Then they would get angry because you don't do that in Sweden. Well, maybe people do things in different ways. Maybe they have a different interpretation of the behavior they've done and vice versa. Maybe there are things that, my colleagues in Sweden were doing that were upsetting or offending the Chinese colleagues. So I just started teaching a class that taught that differences. And it caught on and spread through the company. So this class that was really just for my team and a few others ended up being spread throughout the company, even to the point that I went to China and Russia to train for the parent company and help them with it. It also started spreading because people that took the class as our team would go home and talk to their husband or wife who was struggling with similar issues. Because basically the tech industry now, in a lot of places, you can't hire enough good people. There in the local area. Like there aren't enough engineers. So then you need to go outside. You need to go to another country. But as soon as you do that, the different behavior, expectations, things change. And people get frustrated. People get angry. And, they don't understand those differences. So that's really been my focus now is try to tie that cultural training that I built in with helping teams, team members, and leaders to work with differences and diversity.
So also we go back to the beginning, when you were little, which is what you love.
Yeah.
Orally.
Yep.
Isn't that awesome? It's like your entire career based on what you love doing.
Yeah. I've been so lucky because there's so many times in my career I think, I can't believe I'm paid to do this.
Yes, you are paid to do what you love doing. Not everyone is that lucky.
No, I'd say it's a combination of there's a lot of luck in it and a little direction or so.
Yes. And I think you had great people in your life too that kind of guide and support you throughout that time as well.
I did a lot. I was lucky to have my father as a mentor in engineering, and he introduced me to quite a few wonderful women who were really the pioneers in breaking into engineering. And also, there's some of the men I work for, excellent, mentors and resources in teaching me. So I said it's a lot of luck.
So now for your services, do you offer them just within the United States, or is it any companies anywhere within the world? Because I know you travel.
Yeah, I primarily work globally. I'd say most of my customers are global, but I also work within the United States. So I basically like to go in where somebody says, I'm not sure this works, or I'm frustrated, or, we tried working with this team in country X or country Y, and it's just not going. And it's, okay, how can I help you do that? Because I really believe, and research shows it, that diversity leads to the best results. When we have different ways of thinking, when we have different training and background, we can do so much more. The revenue, the customer satisfaction, the service, the quality, all those things are better when diversity works. But a lot of people get frustrated. A lot of people say, oh, why can't we have people all the same kind of age, college, gender, and it's easier, but it's not nearly as creative. Innovation.
It's boring.
Yeah, it's boring, but it's easy.
Yes.
And what I like to do is try to make diversity and differences easier for people, because there are actually a set things of things you can do. It's a combination of working with a team and helping guiding. What is their purpose? Who are they delivering to? What value do they create? How do they measure themselves? Having them discuss and work through those things can also help them work through differences and then learn to see value in differences.
Yes. So now, do you offer your services just to companies, or also it can be individual, or someone who's facing that type of issues and don't know how to deal with it in a personal level?
I actually do a good deal of personal coaching as well. So I have clients who come to me and just, in a sense, use me as a sounding board. It's particularly a lot of managers that I work with that, okay, I've got a diverse team, or I'm working through this challenge, and I do private coaching for them as well.
Do you do it strictly online, or do you also in person?
I'd say that in person would depend on kind of the ability to meet, and so I'd be willing to entertain it. Of course, I've done it in person when geography makes it possible.
Yes.
But I guess I don't want to sign up to traveling all over, but I also love travel. So, it's something that, I could be interested to see how it would work.
You're up to the challenge.
Exactly. I believe a lot. What I recommend to teams and people I work with is often a first meeting. Get to meet somebody face to face as a person, particularly where relationship matters more, which something like coaching, the relationship matters.
A lot, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, if you don't trust the coach, if you don't feel comfortable with the coach, if you can't open up and really get to what's that root of, the problem, you're not going to make progress.
No, you're not. So with that, how do you, sorry about that, how do you actually, let's say I reach out to you, hey, I have this team and I'm facing this and this and that. So what's the first step?
The first step is I offer a free 30-minute chat to anyone who's interested to work with me. And a lot of that is just that chemistry aspect. And, is your problem something I'm the right person to address? Because there are a lot of problems that aren't my area, but they may be areas I could refer you to somebody else, that I could give you ideas of where to reach out for help. And so I never charge for a first visit. And it usually runs more than 30 minutes, I'd say.
I believe so.
Because we also talk about what would be the appropriate meeting place or what would be the appropriate course of action. If somebody wants to do private coaching and they know me from before, well, then we go directly into that coaching. But if somebody's trying to get comfortable, okay, is there a way, maybe we talk again and see.
Yes.
If we have a close geographic proximity or I have travel already planned, maybe we meet up live somewhere and see if it works. Because it's more important to me to work with people I can help than just book business.
So it seems like you put people first before business and money.
Yeah, it's kind of a luxury I have at the moment. It's not,
but it's a good thing, it's a great thing. That's one thing I learned over the years is that when you focus so much in money, I'm not saying you're not going to make money, but it seems to disappear from you very fast. And it doesn't come too easy as well. But when you put people first, people get to connect with you. They get to know the real you. They get to trust you. And they'll always come back to you. And they always will refer people to you because they trust you. But if they can't trust you because you're just a money anger, money, give me the money, we talk, give me the money, we talk. Then they become like, okay, this person just focused about money. Then I'm not going to refer that person because probably will embarrass me and just stop the relationship from there. So
yeah, or they're just trying to take my money.
Yes, that too. Exactly. So I think what you have is a great way. The only thing I will say is to be careful because there's also people out there who's trying to take advantage of people like us. They just want to be like, she's an easy one. I can squeeze myself in there and get as much as I can for free. So I kind of also learned to teach myself, okay, that person is trying to take advantage of me. It's time for me to stop.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good to be a people person.
Yeah, and I think about it a lot because I do some work without pay. But I always question, is this something I'm learning from? Is it helping me be better? And then if it is, it's okay, maybe I continue with that and I don't mind it. But otherwise, if you just feel you're being used, that's something that you need to put a stop to. And, I've been lucky. I haven't had so much of that. So far anyway, that, it's some people I help, perhaps because I know their mission and purpose aligns very closely to mine. And by helping them, I'm helping achieve what I want to achieve anyway, right?
Exactly, yes. And it's worth taking the chance.
Yeah.
So what was your decision to start your own company? And now, what is your future goal for it?
Well, I think it was a lot that I'd had those 20 some years in a company. And while I enjoyed it a lot and I had fantastic experiences, I wanted to feel that sense of being an entrepreneur. And I'd learned a lot in the journey in the sense that there are some things I'm good at. There are some things I'm not so good at. And, one of them for me is risk. I'm not somebody who's comfortable, let's say, going out and asking for a lot of somebody else's money and taking great risks. I'm a more conservative person. And so my philosophy in the business is I want to do things that align with my mission and purpose, but I want to do it in a way that, I'm not taking great risks. So like right now I'm working on a children's book on trying to teach children of these differences in the world and make it a positive thing. Also teach them how did they develop the skills to interact among differences. Curiosity. How can they be just kind of wonder why? Oh, it's different. Why? It's okay to be different. Oh, that's interesting. And why do people do things the way they do? And then it's compassion. That, hey, we do things differently, and that's okay. And we can be kind to people even if we don't believe or act the same way.
Yes.
And it's also courage. It's courage to be yourself, but also go out and explore something new and different that might seem a bit scary. So I'm trying to teach kids these, I call them superpowers.
Ooh.
To and they're not the kind of superpowers like Superman or Spider-Man or something that you're never going to have. But these are superpowers that exist within you, the potential. and you can develop them and get better and better at them. And then the world becomes a whole lot more exciting and interesting and open place rather than a threatening and scary and, something you want to avoid and sit at home.
Yes, and these are also the superpowers you're going to need to face this world on your own, because eventually you need to leave home and go face this on by yourself. So it's kind of, if you already have them in you, it's kind of help you also when you go out there in this world to deal with certain things, because they will happen eventually.
Yeah. And I'd had the thought in my mind for many, many years, but it was triggered from a class I taught about a half year ago where I just encountered people that were so set in their views and that everyone should be like me and do things my way. And I got to start younger. I can work with teams at work and I can make a difference for some of them. But particularly when you get somebody a bit older, a bit more experienced, a bit more set in their ways, it's so hard to open them up to there are different ways of doing things well and right and good. There are different definitions of that. And a lot of it is cultural.
Yes. And also go ahead.
But if you don't see that, you just get stuck. And that's what I want to, with the books I'm writing and working on now, I want to kind of introduce kids to that while they're young and flexible and, kind of keep them young and flexible and build those skills. Because I hope we're going to have a global society going forward because the world is so exciting. It would be sad if we kind of shut down in our countries and put the borders in and, we all have to act one way, or then this is the only way that's good. I think we'd lose so much.
I think the world itself will be boring. Imagine you just have to travel within the United States for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, and you're lucky in the United States because it's a big country with a lot of geographic diversity. And so, but yeah, I think the world's a better place when we cooperate, when we collaborate, when we recognize and value those differences in each other. And
yes. But you know what? That's what makes us who we are. We are all different. I don't think that in this world you'll never find one or two people that's exactly the same. Even when they are twins. I remember my mom has twin sisters. I mean, like, they are not the same. It's like, what? You guys are like twin sisters? Completely different type of people. Mindset, everything is different. So I think we're supposed to be like that. And we're supposed to teach each other the things that we know. I know that you don't know it and I teach it to you. And I think that's exactly what you are doing. You want to pass on all of these experiences over the years to the next generation.
Exactly.
And I think starting with when we are young is the best way, because like you said, as we get older, we become stubborn and we don't want to change who we are. Even if we know it's wrong, we still stay like that. I don't know why, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was doing my Myers-Briggs training, they mentioned that somewhere around midlife, people either become more strict caricatures of their personality and set in their ways, or they become more flexible and open. And those are the people that can really kind of do amazing things because they have a preference, they have a way they are, but they recognize that's not the only way. They can work with others maybe and appreciate that strength, or they can develop that weakness, you could say, within themselves that, hey, you need to be this too. You can't be, all one or the other.
Yes. So when is the book coming out?
The book will come out April 29th, and it's a book about a little bear that travels in a suitcase of a big person. And while the big person is working, the bear goes off and has adventures.
I love it.
And so the first book is just to introduce the superpowers, and she solves a first problem. I'm an engineer. I like problems. But no, don't worry, no math in this one.
And then go ahead.
And then I'll write a book for various countries. Like I've already written the first book after the introduction book, and that will be France, which is the first country I went to on my own. And then I'm hoping to kind of work my way around the world, writing about the different countries. In each country book, it'll introduce a friend. So the bear will meet a friend from that country, because we all learn more when we have a cultural guide, right? Somebody who takes interest in us, who becomes a friend, who shares about their, their culture, their experience. And there'll be a bit of food, a bit of, you could say the sights or, the history of the country, and also a bit of language, because I want to introduce the idea that there are different ways of saying things. There are different ways of speaking, and it's fascinating and interesting. It's not bad.
I see a next movie coming out here. I can see it already.
Well, that would be a dream. Right now, I'm just working on getting the first book out and a few little things around it. I have aluminum luggage tags that with the bear on it, because I thought that would be a cute way for kids to share about it. And so
are they going to be able to get it from Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, or your website? Where exactly would it be available?
It will be Amazon and then whatever stores carry it. I'm self-publishing. That's another thing I'm learning and working with right now is self-publishing. So it'll go through Ingram Spark. Yes. It'll be available globally. And then I'm also working to get it in translation. I'll have it in Swedish, Spanish, and German fairly quickly because I have friends and contacts who reached out to help me with that. But yes, it will be Amazon, and I'm hoping to do consignment with a lot of independent bookstores to help them. And I'm also going to make it free to any teacher or educator who wants to work with it, because I want to get this thought about culture and differences and diversity is good in classrooms. And I know teachers are underfunded. They often have to spend their own money.
Yes.
So I'm offering that any teacher who is interested will send them the book. And we're also developing material for classrooms. How could teachers talk about cultural differences?
This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this project because while I can teach adults, if I can get in younger, I think I can hopefully reach more people.
I'm hoping we can have a conversation again when the book come out itself, when you have the print copies is out, when you have it with you.
Oh, I would love to.
I think it would be great, because what's the best way to start? It's the perfect age, the perfect timing, the perfect way, because at that time they are exploring, they are learning, they are open to learn anything and everything. So it's the perfect time. So I love it.
And I'm actually hoping maybe some parents will pick up a little bit of excitement and curiosity, compassion, encourage themselves while reading the books to their kids.
Yes, exactly. I agree. So now, when it's come out, what the age range is it going to be? I'm
thinking it's probably mainly 4 to 6. It's a kid's book.
Yes.
But interestingly enough, in talking to some teachers, there's a strong interest in material for junior high age. So I'm going to reach out to them and see maybe we help develop some tools and things as well for that age. Now, the little bear, which here I can show you a picture of it.
Oh,
that's
you
the
already
little
know
bear.
What it's look like. Cute.
Yep. My sister did the illustrations. I wrote the book. So this has been a project together. And
I liked it because it's like traveling, learning at the same time. It's like an adventure, which is kids at that age, they like adventure, especially when bedtime stories, it's adventures. Yes, I think it's going to be great. So now let's talk for your services. How can someone reach out to you?
The best way is through my webpage, which is www.nspir.se. And on there, I have a newsletter. I send a free newsletter, and I talk about the various things I'm working with, what I do. That's a great way to join the newsletter. It's also to reach out on LinkedIn through messages. I'm pretty easy to find there. I'm the only Sarah Wills Carlsson. So that's a great way to reach me as well.
And also, when the book come out, they will be able to go onto your website also and then find the information they need and how to purchase one.
Yeah, I already have a webpage for it as well. That is the name of the bear, which is ittle, ITTLE. It's missing the L. Bear, BEAR.com. And there's a newsletter there. And I actually have a lot of promotions right now. Like if you join our newsletter, you get the sticker that I just showed you mailed to your house with a card. And if you like us on Facebook and share, you get a magnet. And there'll be a lot of these things coming into the launch. As you know, since we're self-publishing, we're trying to reach a broad mix of people ourselves.
Yes, for more people to, and I think it's a great book. Parents should get that book for the kids. It's a great way to learn. It's the place to start.
Yeah, and it's a way I hope that kids can see the world from their bedroom.
Yes,
because not everyone has a chance to hop on a plane and go somewhere. But I'm hoping through the eyes of the bear that they can experience what might it be like to spend a day in France, or what is it like to be there, and then also teach them, hey, there are challenges you face and how might I work through it.
Yes, and like I said, it's the next movie.
My ambition's not that high yet, but I may be there someday.
Oh, I think you are very close to it. Very close to it.
Well, thank you. Anything
else you'd like to share with us before I let you go, Sarah?
I don't think so. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you here. And I know I'm a broad person with a lot of interests and projects going on, but it really ties down to that passion of the world's a wonderful place. All our differences it's amazing and good.
Yes.
But sometimes we need some tools. We need some understanding. We need some help to work through that, to see the good in differences. And that's where, I hope to help children. I've helped companies, and I like to help people to see that so that they can kind of see the wonder and joy of the differences in the world.
And what I like about it, it's come from experience as well, because you go out there, you experience it, you see the problems, you see that they can't fix it, and no one else is doing anything to fix it. So it's great to have women that see the problem and try to fix it.
Yeah, I'd say it was something I just kind of lucked into in my career as I became this cultural bridge. It was that assignment in Germany, and then it was many assignments through the years after, whether it was going into Sweden or Germany. I worked with South America, with Asia, and it was just going in to bridge, build a path between here and there. And how do we get there? And that enthusiasm from being a child, it's helped me a lot. I remember visiting a plant in Singapore, and the plant manager there said to me, he said, keep your enthusiasm. He said, it's so fun to have people like you visit, because you just want to know all there is about us and our culture and why we work the way we do. And he's like, so many people just come in and judge us against where they came from, whatever country they called home. It's not the same as home. The food's not the same. We don't do things in the plant the same.
But it's not supposed to be the same.
No, it's not. I mean, why would we want to work with different places? Why, but yeah, I hope I can always keep that enthusiasm and also pass it on to a few others.
Sarah, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's staying with you because you were born with it.
Yeah.
You stuck with it. And I think you are already passing it on to people. Me, myself, just spending the past 2 weeks learning about you, searching about you, and I get to learn a lot about you. It's like, wow, she's doing all that? Wait, before I let you go, how do you find time to do all that?
Well, that's one of my favorite classes to teach is, the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People?
Yes.
I love that book. I came into it it was when I first graduated undergrad. My dad gave it to me. We revisited at Stanford. I've revisited it through my life, and I teach an interpretation of it. And I think that's a lot of it, it's the principles in that book. It's knowing what matters to me, that mission statement, that purpose I mentioned to you. That helps me make the decisions of where do I spend my time? Is my time, if I invest time to this, is that holding me to my purpose? And if it's not, that helps me say no. And then it's how do you work effectively with people? How do you try to reach win-win? A lot of the principles in that book are things that I incorporate in my life. So I'd say that's where I keep finding the time is if I start feeling overwhelmed, I come back to, okay, what really matters? Then what comes first? Then, what might I say no to? And we always have to say no to something, but sometimes we're just in automatic mode and, then we're not saying no to things consciously. We're not thinking, is that my purpose? Is that what's helping me live the life I want to live? I'm just reacting to what other people want or others are yelling at me or society's pushing on me.
Yes. So now, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Any advice for women?
You're never going to be everything or have it all or be perfect. Life's a bunch of trade-offs. And nobody's as good as they look on social media or anything else. And in Swedish, there's an expression, duktig flicka, that almost killed me at one point in my life. It means clever girl. And in US, we have the same thing. The woman should be the perfect mom. She should look great. Her hair should be perfectly styled. She should be top in her job. She should be the best mother. All these things, like she should be it all. It's just not possible to be all of that. You're not going to be perfect. But when you let go of perfection, you can have good enough. And by knowing that purpose, that mission, what is it? What are you here to do? Who are you trying to reach? What are you trying to achieve? What do you want to be the memory of you when you go, your legacy? Then you can decide what's good enough.
So in another word, just be who you are. Don't let society choose for you.
Yeah, a lot of us are living, and I know a lot early in my career, I was trying to prove I was somebody. And I'm still working hard to let go of that, let's say. But
you are always somebody. Somebody who's trying to change something in the world that we all should be trying to change.
Yeah. But also all of us are somebody. We just have to let that somebody out sometimes.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate you giving me the chance to talk to you, to learn from you and to know everything, understand everything you are doing and why you are doing it. And I had a lot of questions and I didn't have a chance to ask you all of them, but I do enjoy the conversation and then your knowledge and all the things that you are doing. It's different and different is great.
That's what my new motto is see the difference.
Yes. So let's all help us see the difference because sometimes we just need a little help.
Well, thank you so much, Nagilia. It's been a pleasure to be here talking with you today.
I appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.